episode of Comic Corner. Apologies for last week's episode being very, very late. Real life happened, and the COVID vaccine kicked my butt. So, I will get it up sometime this week. You will get 2 episodes for the price of 1 this week.
Bonus.
Right. As usual, I am Kasey. This is Kristi.
Hi.
And I still did the thingy wrong. Anyways, it's fine. She's that way. No, that way. There we go. I forget my camera is backwards. Anyways, we've got a lot on tap this week. We have new episodes of Superman and Lois, Batwoman, The Flash, of course, the epic.
Of course, Wandavision.
As you can see from my background behind me, I'm so excited. I have so much. And also, we have a very special this week in comic history for y'all this week. So, how's it been?
It's been good. I feel like I've been playing a lot of catch up with episodes this week. I was looking forward to WandaVision so long that by the time it finally rolled around, I rewatched the entire series just out of sheer excitement. And then it was like Friday afternoon, and I realized I hadn't watched anything else that week except for WandaVision. So I was watching all of my CW shows and kind of catching up with that. But it was definitely I think anybody who has been watching WandaVision has been looking forward to this week more than any other.
Yeah, it's funny. I rewatched the entire series yesterday and then proceeded to watch Age of Ultron, Civil War, Infinity War. I've got Endgame to finish up later this afternoon. And it's been really nice to see them properly take a couple from the comics that has always been together, with some minor drama aside. There is some iterations where she's with Nightcrawler. But just build a steady, good relationship.
Yeah.
Which is rare within Marvel, especially the MCU. When they have Black Widow getting thrown at everybody.
Yeah.
And even Tony and Pepper have been this hot mess of on again, off again disaster. But they got it right in the end. So
yeah.
We'll
definitely it was refreshing to see what felt like an authentic relationship start, where they met, they knew they were drawn to each other, they kind of became friends. And then is it Infinity War that they've kind of run away together for a minute?
Yeah.
And you see that they're trying to have a relationship, and they're trying to figure out, is this something that could be real? And their love for each other grows in a really authentic way, rather than some of the other MCU couples where, like, Hawkeye just suddenly has a family that he's never talked about, but boom, there's a family. And then you're like, oh, it's a really wonderful family. You could have had this the whole time, but it's not from the comic books. And then, especially the Black Widow being thrown at Bruce Banner. I'm just like, but why? Like, you can kind of see it with their personalities, I guess, but it's not from the comics, and it felt kind of forced.
Yeah, there's a couple of interesting Black Widow pairings. I feel like starting at the very beginning, they were like, all right, we're not going to do Hawkeye and Black Widow, which is kind of the dominant one in the comics.
Exactly.
There is that history of her and Cap, and they do have a son who goes on to be in the Young Avengers. Not sure how they're going to handle that with bringing in the rest of the Young Avengers, so that could be interesting. But we'll see. There's
probably a lot of like retconning backstories. I feel like that'd happen a lot. And honestly, we've had that in the MCU because they haven't been able to bring in mutants. They hadn't been able to do Spider-Man at the beginning. So some of these characters are being brought in a way that needs to feel authentic to the MCU, which is very much technology driven. And right now, we're in like a very magic heavy section of the MCU. We've got WandaVision, we've got Doctor Strange coming up. Those are some of the best sorcerers in the comic books. So this is where they really can flesh that out and start to bring in other sources of power besides just tech.
Yeah. And this kind of plays into very much like the phase 4 of the MCU and the fact that they're going kind of very mystic arts heavy, and we're going to, basically explode the multiverse here. But the thing that I loved about the show is that it really was, when you come down to it, a origin story for Scarlet Witch.
It really was.
Which we haven't really gotten that outside of the main 6. Everybody else has gotten one. Black Widow is coming next month, or May, I think it is.
Someday.
Yeah, I think it's in May. Someday my movie will come.
If we see enough trailers, then maybe we'll see the whole movie eventually.
Honestly, like, on a side note, I saw a new trailer for Fast and the Furious 9. I forgot that movie existed. And then it was actually coming out, and I went, oh yeah, that was supposed to come out like last summer, and then the pandemic happened, and then,
stupid pandemic.
Life went crazy.
Messing up all of my TV shows and whatnots. I'll actually come back to that when we talk about Flash.
Yeah, I believe it. Anyways, so yeah, as we get into kind of the craziness, we have very special this week in comics history. So
I know you're so excited for this.
And now for this week in comics history.
I really am. I totally realized that I'm covering you. Oh well. As you can see by the picture on your screen, this week, or this month actually, is the 80th anniversary of Captain America issue 1. This is the very famous cover of him hitting Hitler. It's the first iteration that we see of Bucky as well. I am so excited for this. I have been like furiously doing stuff all week for the last like 3 or 4 days prepping for this. He was written by Joel Simon and Jack Kirby, who, gave him the infamous costume. Love him so much. He was played by, I think, the best choice they could have done in Chris Evans within the MCU. It was interesting. So this was one of the first big hits for Timely Comics, which is now Marvel Comics. And it has kind of a weird up and down history within comics history. It was big during World War II, which was why it was written. It's kind of a way of inspiring the troops and keeping morale up overseas.
Yeah, very patriotism heavy.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and Bucky was designed as kind of this little kid sidekick originally. He isn't the kind of badass version that we see in the MCU, which I have to say I prefer. Being a huge Captain America fan, kind of prefer this. But he had his Howling Commandos, which we saw a little bit of in First Avenger, with one key difference. In the original comics, Nick Fury was part of the Howling Commandos originally. That was how he was introduced. And then they kind of changed things. And, as comics would do, retcon, new stories, different timelines, different Earths, etc. And so we get kind of this interesting mesh of history. And they took the title off the shelves for a while, kind of on and off between the late 50s through the early 70s, and then back into the 70s is when they had a resurgence, and then it's just been pretty popular ever since. The last real push was in the early 2000s with the Winter Soldier run. That was absolutely fantastic, and that's where we get the basis for the movie Winter Soldier. Not necessarily the political thriller side of things, but the Bucky storyline and all of that. So, a lot of fun. I highly recommend checking it out. I will post some recommended reading in our section on our Discord server later this week. I will do for both Jack Kirby and for Cap.
Nice.
He's got a lot of comics, a lot of history, but
Well, he's been around for 80 years. There's going to be a bit.
yeah, just a little bit. But he's one of my favorite characters within the MCU, as you can see by my icon.
Yeah.
You know, I got into the MCU into Marvel via the MCU, and got obsessed with Cap because I'm a history nerd, and especially World War II history. And then that kind of was how I got into comics in general. So, a lot of fun. He's been all over the place. I don't think we'll see the current iteration of Cap anymore, with at least within the movies. He is now, the mantle has been taken over by Sam Wilson, both in the MCU and in the comics. There is a pretty prolific run of Bucky taking over Cap's shield in the comics, but I don't think that's going to happen unless something weird happens in Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I would not be opposed to.
Well, there have been some trailers that kind of allude to them maybe sharing the shield. So we'll see where that takes us. We've only got a week to wait, so
I know, right? I'm so excited.
Or 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
In between.
This week is the making of Wandavision, which I'm actually really looking forward to.
Yeah, which will be very interesting. I do like documentary kind of things.
Yeah, well, and I'm such a film nerd that like the way that this show is so lovingly recreated for some of these old sitcoms.
All the perfect TV tropes.
So many. But yeah.
I gotta say, my favorite Captain America moment is from the movie in Winter Soldier, where they reference his storyline where he's Hydra.
Oh yeah!
That was one of the biggest, hugest plot twists in comic book history that I can think of.
Yeah.
Where Captain America, ultimate good guy, like boy next door, was a Hydra agent. And then there's just that one little moment where he pretends to be Hydra inside. Yeah. And I was just like, that moment got me so hard while I was watching the movie. And even every time I've watched it since then.
You know, it's funny. There's that run, I think, was heavily inspired by the kind of dawn of Red Superman. And it was interesting kind of watching him progress in the films because he became less rigid, less, this is, everything is in black and white.
Yeah, less Boy Scout.
Yeah, less Boy Scout, 100%. I mean, not that there's nothing wrong with having, moral fortitude, but the world is not black and white. It is infinite shades of gray. And because of that, you have to kind of learn. And it was really funny as I was rewatching parts of Endgame this afternoon. That scene where he's going up against his 2012 self. The difference in character development between those two scenes is astounding to me.
Astounding. Yeah. That, and you know that you've been on a journey with Cap, and you know that he's a different person, but that just highlighted the difference. He was like, oh man, like I used to be so naive.
Oh yeah.
It was 100%. So great.
I mean, just the, that's America's ass line.
Yeah.
Just sums it up perfectly.
Yeah, that previous Captain America wouldn't have swore to save his life.
No. The man was, had a stick up his ass.
A little bit.
He was wound a little too tight.
Yeah. And definitely everything that he's been through in the past couple decades shaped him into who he became. And it also highlighted, like, especially in Endgame, it highlighted everything that he had been ignoring about himself, all of the things that he had been feeling and all the trauma that he'd been through over the years, because he fought a war and then he woke up and it was 50 years later and everybody had died and the world was a different place.
Yeah.
And all he really wanted to do was go back and live his life the way he should have.
There's it's interesting. And the, kind of happy ending nerd in me was happy that he went back and stayed with Peggy. But the realist in me is like, this would never have worked.
Yeah.
He's too much of a modern person by that point that personality-wise, morality-wise, like, there's no way he would have worked in that time frame. And it just baffles me that they were like, yeah, we're just gonna do this. Like, I get why they did it as a story thing to, move the shield along, and it was time. But I don't know. It doesn't work.
Yeah. It's almost as if he's going to be back in the 40s pretending just as much as he was pretending in the modern day that he was okay.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to kind of see, where they take it, if they do anything with it.
If Chris Evans is never in another MCU movie, I hope that they at least refer to stuff. Like, you see an old man in the corner of a screen somewhere, and people can point and be like, look, that's Cap still, like, looking out for other people. Because that's the thing more than anything else. It's not so much just the fact that he knows about technology and what happens in the world, and that he made friends in modern day that he's not going to see anymore. For me, Cap always stood up for the little guy. He never backed down from a fight, and he always protected other people. And he's got to still be able to do that in some way. Otherwise, he's not himself. Like, not just as Cap, but as Steve Rogers. And so unless he becomes like a firefighter or something, I feel like we need to see some kind of reference that there's this guy living in Iowa somewhere that really, like, saved all the cats from the trees,
One of my favorite fan theories is that when he went back, he became Mr. Rogers.
Yeah. Which is pretty adorable.
Which, in my brain, I'm like, yes, please. Like, I accept.
Yeah.
But honestly, like, you could theoretically make that version of Cap the new Stan Lee. And have him appear in little cameos all over the place. Will they do it?
Fun.
I have no idea, but
That's
could.
a fun idea. And it doesn't even have to be overt. It can just be a tiny little Easter egg where a guy walks past and happens to be wearing Cap's colors, Like, or just literally somebody wearing a Captain America t-shirt walking through a scene.
Yeah. There's so many options.
Yeah. I would love something like that. If Chris Evans never, ever picks up a shield again and never is in another MCU movie, that is how we could still really feel like that character is still a part of it.
Yeah, 100%. So, I could spend the rest of the episode talking about Cap, but I won't, because we have so many other things to discuss.
Absolutely.
Honestly, in terms of news, at least on the Marvel side of things, there really isn't a ton outside of the big anniversary. Other than that, it's fairly quiet. Other than, there's been a bunch of new merch drop for WandaVision, kind of all over the place. Some on the Disney site, some at Hot Topic, a lot at Hot Topic actually, weirdly enough. So there's all kinds of fun stuff. A bunch of Agatha.
I'm wearing my own
stuff.
WandaVision merch.
Mine is downstairs.
Actually.
Yeah. My studio is a disaster at the moment. It's a work in progress to finally fix everything up and actually make it function properly. But as soon as it's fixed, I will have that up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a lot of fun stuff. Go check it out. Marvel.com has the must-haves for all the WandaVision exclusive merch. Check it out. It's by episode. There's so much stuff.
Seriously, some good stuff out there.
There's so much stuff.
When I was looking for news, most of what I found was a couple of like comics coming out soon. Like the one that drew my eye at first was Spider-Gwen being reworked as Nighthawk. I don't know where I've got her.
Okay, that makes sense.
In like a Heroes Reborn.
Okay.
She's being called Night Gwen, which I love. Just in general, I love when there are kind of spin-off characters where, like the What If series for Marvel, for example, that is one of my favorite things when you have a character that is kind of picked up from one property or franchise and put into another, because then you get to play with all of the basic information about the characters. So this is something that I am looking forward to seeing more about. It looks like the Heroes Reborn series that's coming out is going to be, the Heroes Reborn series that is coming out, rather. It's going to be a lot of like one-off kind of comics, and it's going to be a lot in the same vein as the What Ifs. So I'm enjoying that. It looks like the original time that Heroes Reborn ran was from 96 to 97. So this is kind of like an anniversary for that, and they're kind of bringing back that vibe. I think that's going to be really fun.
Nice.
And then the image that I sent to you, the other thing that I'm so looking forward to.
Okay.
It is the 30th birthday of Deadpool. And Deadpool is probably my single favorite comic book character in anything. Like, I love Deadpool. The whole fact that he's very sarcastic. He knows that he's in a comic book, and just the way that character is written is so unique and so hilarious to me. I love the movies. I love the actual comics. I love when he shows up in animated shows. And so the cover art for this 30th birthday of Deadpool is hilarious. It looks like a cake has exploded over all of his friends and enemies. And it's so great.
It kind of looks like a bunch of jumped up weightlifter versions of like Toy Story toys.
Yeah, it kind of seems that way. Well, he's also wearing the Infinity Gauntlet in the cover art.
I saw that. That's adorable.
There's a box that says to Wade from Al, and it's empty. And so I'm not sure if like Al sent him an empty gift box because she's blind in the comics and in the movies, or if she sent him the Infinity Gauntlet somehow.
Oh, jeez. Not
really sure.
Knows?
But I feel like he used the gauntlet to make all of these people come stand there and celebrate his birthday.
That's so great.
And it's just, I can't wait to read this. Deadpool is always all about Easter eggs, and that's one of the most fun part about comics for me, is seeing those little tidbits that they hide in stuff to really make you look for them.
Well, at the end of the day, Deadpool is very much all about the fourth wall breaks and just being the sassiest, sarcastic a-hole he can be. And I love him. And Ryan Reynolds is perfectly cast.
Oh, just, it's like he was invented for this movie, you know?
It had to be. I mean, the man is just so perfect.
And it's like one of the best parts about him being cast in that role is he worked so hard to help those movies be made.
Oh, yeah.
Because after X-Men Origins Wolverine, and they really did a disservice to that character.
That movie is so bad.
Yeah.
On so many levels.
Just like they took away everything fun about him, really. But he worked so hard as an individual person, loving this character. And the character is described in the actual comics from day one as looking like Ryan Reynolds crossed with a Shar-Pei. And then Ryan Reynolds loves the character and then becomes him in such a fantastic way.
Yeah. there is
Seriously.
few perfect castings.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Ian McKellen as Magneto.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Stewart as Professor X.
Yeah. Hugh Jackman is as Wolverine.
Hugh Jackman is Wolverine.
There are some characters that you just can't picture another way anymore.
Yeah. RDJ is Iron Man. Honestly, I can't picture any other Scarlet Witch except Elizabeth Olsen. She is she's fabulous.
Such a great. And honestly, Paul Bettany as Jarvis and as Vision.
Well, and I actually found it adorable. So they on purpose when they made the transition from Jarvis to Vision, they words. What's the word I'm looking for? Purposefully, there it is. Cast his wife to play Friday.
Oh, I love that.
Okay, so that way there was a continuity that so she took over for him, and she was kind of the here we go.
That's cute.
Yeah, it is the most adorable thing. Now, I know they did it for Spider-Man. I don't remember if they did it for the other ones. Hold on. Let me pull up the IMDb. Okay, yes. Okay, it was just for Spider-Man Homecoming. Yeah, she was the voice of Karen in the suit. So she literally took over for Jarvis in Spider-Man suit, which makes me adorable. I'm not actually sure who the voice of Friday is now. This is kind of gonna bug me for a sec until I figure this out. It sounds very British just in my head thinking about it.
Or almost a little bit Irish or Scottish, maybe.
Yeah, in that region. Oh, I should have not picked Endgame. There's so many characters in this movie. Oh my god.
Carrie Condon.
I have no idea who that is.
She is an Irish actress.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, it's been stuck in my head all day. Although I will say, actually, like that is actually my least, like the Bewitched episode.
That's always the one that gets stuck in my head.
I know, but it is my least favorite. I think it's the laziest of all the theme songs because it's just one word over and over again.
Yeah.
But I digress. Yes. So there is like they've gotten a lot of it right, which is fantastic, and I'm curious, kind of, to see going forward what they're gonna do with different things. There's so many characters that they could and should bring in.
We often talk about how Elizabeth Olsen deserves an Emmy for this role.
So I
think Catherine Hahn deserves an Emmy too. Like they have both, beyond anything else, just seriously knocked it out of the park, especially playing the different iterations of the character.
Yeah.
And you got to imagine, like, that 50s housewife version of each of them on screen for like less than half an hour at the most.
Yeah.
But that half hour is so perfect and so perfectly done that you have to imagine that they spent forever just absolutely perfecting every detail. And so I hope that what really gets Emmys from WandaVision is casting director, set designer, makeup artists, those people, because the effects in this show, like everything else, you can take any show that's out there and be like, okay, well, yeah, those characters look super believable, it's fantastic, but they had to do that in like 8 different ways for this series of shows that was 9 shows and over, you know, like it's not like this is gonna run for 10 seasons.
Yeah, well, and they were very, I mean, they may do a second season, if they do, I don't know that they can run it as a limited series. Which is probably what they should run it as. Because if they run it as a comedy, it's gonna get destroyed up against stuff like Schitt's Creek. But they should get outside of limited series, lead actor, lead actress, supporting actress, writing, maybe directing.
You have to imagine they're going to be
There's so
nominated
many.
at least, because
Well, see, that's the thing. So they'll get nominated. They may win one.
I really hope they win more than that, because the
Here's
amount
the
of work that went into that, it's honestly the reason that I am looking forward to that making of WandaVision so much, because every tiny detail was just perfect the whole way through. That 50s style filming, the way that the clothes showed up on the black and white camera, every detail was picture perfect. And then you flip, and then the next episode is an entirely different decade, a different style of filming, a different style of house, and all of the callbacks to classic TV. It's the stuff I grew up watching, you know? I grew up watching Brady Bunch after school.
Yeah, so here's the thing. It'll probably do a Mandalorian where it'll get nominated for like 10 million things, probably win a bunch of technicals, and maybe win one of the big ones.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And I can understand that, because I mean, TV is like going through a golden age right now where there's just so much amazing product out there. Everybody is doing their own shows, and they're doing a lot of stuff really well. So I can understand there being stiff competition, but I especially expect it to win some of those technical awards, just because, like, those people that you don't know the names of off the top of your head, like, I don't know who designed the sets, but they did a phenomenal job.
Yeah. Like,
I don't watch the credits very well. I just watch it to see if there's an after credits scene.
There's a lot.
I'm terrible.
There's a lot.
There is one thing that I noticed. I was watching some fan theory stuff. We've kind of transitioned to just talking about WandaVision already.
Oh, I know. Totally didn't mean to.
When we finally have the scene where they're out in town and they're about to have their confrontation, that was actually the exact same town that one of the episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was recorded in.
Really? Well,
yeah.
Actually, I didn't.
I saw a screenshot of the two.
I didn't think about it until afterwards, but the town square where they did the scare mare a couple of episodes ago was actually the same set as Gilmore Girls.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Fun little details.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. Okay. Well, okay, so here will be the big one. So the SAG Awards are coming up soon. If they are nominated and win, then they have a decent shot for the Emmys.
Well, would it be the like this upcoming SAG Awards? Because the show came out in 2021, so usually awards do the year before.
Yeah, well, they extended for TV. They extended the eligibility until the 28th.
Oh, okay.
Of February. So
gotcha.
They barely made it in.
Yeah, just squeaked in.
Yeah. So let's see. Hold on. Let's see if I can find this. Because it'll be interesting to see. Let's see. They already announced. Okay. Let's see. Looking for limited series. No, they didn't get nominated at all. That doesn't bode well. But they may have just not wanted to have them go up, and that's gonna be the thing for the Emmys. They're gonna have to go up against the Queen's Gambit, and the Queen's Gambit has been winning everything this year.
It's been pretty good, yeah.
Yeah,
it might be that they just didn't submit it for, because of the time frame on the eligibility. They might not have submitted themselves to this year.
Well, and the thing is, I don't think that. I think you have to have the entire show done.
I wouldn't be surprised, or at least a whole season.
Yeah, and they weren't even close. They were like maybe 3 or 4 episodes in. So we'll get back to WandaVision. Let's do the DC show recaps before we forget completely.
All right, DC show recaps. Let's start with Flash. Okay, so I didn't even know Flash was coming back until I loaded the CW app, and it was like, new episode of Flash, and I was like, oh, okay. I didn't see any like promotions out there, no trailers or teasers for this season. So I was like, okay, Flash is one of my favorite CW shows. Great, let's jump in. This is where I'm going to talk about COVID. I
was actually surprised. Because I follow Greg Gunson on Instagram, and I never saw anything.
Yeah.
About them being in production.
Yeah, nothing. I don't remember seeing anything either. Okay, so season 6 kind of had 2 arcs, and they got through like a good majority of the season. I think they had 19 episodes, so a decent season. You could tell when the last episode aired, it was called Success is Assured, that we were not done with the story arc that they were talking about, which was the Mirrorverse. Iris is sucked into like an alternate mirror dimension, and there's a character there named Eva that can kind of control it a little bit, but she doesn't know. There's all this drama, and she's trying to break out and get back to Barry, because it's always about get back to Barry. Okay, so this episode, I started watching it, and there is no transition whatsoever where they acknowledge that it's been 9-10 months since they've had an episode. It's just, it picks up right exactly where the last one left off. Like, they didn't do any kind of acknowledging the fact that they stopped filming for 10 months during COVID. So
interesting.
This episode is episode 1 of season 7, and it's called All's Wells That Ends Wells, because it's all about the different versions of Harrison Wells. But it picks up exactly in the same place. They're still trying to save Iris, and it really needed some kind of refresher. So if you are somebody who watches Flash, do not turn this episode on. Go back to series 6, or season 6 rather, and start again at least somewhere around episode 10. You could do maybe even like up to episode 17, but watch the last few of season 6. You've got to remember who these characters are, like who Chester is. I didn't remember who Chester was. I didn't even remember there was a Chester. You've got to remember why Iris is in the mirror universe and what she's trying to accomplish, why Barry's losing his speed. They don't address any of this. They assume that you literally just watched the other episode.
Oh,
it was kind of painful. So because I'm such a comic book nerd, I knew that I had seen all those things, and I caught myself up as we went along. But if you are only a casual viewer of Flash, this is not going to be for you. You want to go back and at least watch the last few of season 6 and then start watching season 7. It'll make a lot more sense. So I feel like what they did was they took the script for the last maybe 3 shows they had of that season and said, okay, well, that's episode 1 now, and let's move along. And so we're reaching the confrontation where we're going to wrap up that story arc. But it's done in a very clumsy way, in my opinion. There was a great bit of acting where one of the things that I do love about Flash is it tends to be a little bit more lighthearted. It has not been so very much in the recent years because everything's like, oh, I'm about to die. And it's been very tragic. But this got a little bit back to that lighthearted Flash that I do love. Is it Tom Cavanaugh? Is that the guy I'm thinking of that plays Harrison Wells?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I was making sure I got his name right. He has played several different versions of this character. Like, one is Sherlock Holmes, but with a French accent. One is a goofball that just drums on every surface. One is a super genius. One is like an Indiana Jones kind of guy.
Yikes.
There are all these different Welleses. And at the moment, they're all living inside of his mind because of Crisis on Infinite Earths. The entire multiverse was destroyed in Crisis. And so all of these different versions of Wells are just kind of within him. And because of the shenanigans of this episode, Barry starts acting like all of those different characters. And so what you have is Grant Gustin pretending to be Tom Cavanaugh, pretending to be all of these different versions of Harrison Wells. And that is hilarious, but far too short. Like, he spends 10, 15 seconds on a particular character and then it's gone. And within like 5 minutes, they have him cured of this problem. If that had been the entire episode and they explained maybe where we left off at all, even just like previously on Flash, and remind us what's been happening, then this episode would have been, I would say, like 4 out of 5 stars. As it is, I'm giving it a 2. This was way too confusing, and all of the enjoyable bits were way too short. And like, you just got dropped into the middle of a season that you haven't been in for almost a year because they stopped filming with COVID and obviously did not rework their storylines in the meantime.
Yeah,
so that's Flash.
That's almost as bad as the heroes. We're going to have a Writers Guild strike and not do anything and let the show fall apart.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Oh.
So the whole thing about the Mirrorverse, I was like, I don't even remember why we cared about this. I'm hoping that, like, within the next 1 or 2 episodes, they finish that arc and then give me a new one, and I'll just pretend in my head that that's when season 7 starts.
You know, I've had those moments with shows where I'm like, all right, the entire last season just doesn't exist in my brain.
That never happened. Season. That was just a fever dream.
Yeah. Castle comes to mind. I love that show, but oh boy, did they...
Yeah,
they died a slow and very painfully public death.
Like the last season of Alias.
Oh,
yeah, I loved Alias.
God, that show.
I loved that show. Last season, no thank you.
Yeah, no, it was bad.
Yeah, it was bad. All right, moving on. We will talk very briefly about Batwoman. All right, so Batwoman, we are really, like I mentioned, the last couple of episodes have been better. Where Ryan is really becoming Batwoman. And in this episode especially, she finally tells off Lucas and is like, you're not supporting me. I am not Kate, but I can still do this. And we're all just screaming at our TVs, finally, thank you. Because the only thing that he ever does is like complain that she does things her own way.
Yeah.
So we are finally... But mind you, he never had a problem with Kate being Batwoman, and he was supposed to be Batman's guy. Like, it's all double standards here. But at this point, we find out that Ryan, in her first episode, she was shot through the batsuit, and she's being infected by kryptonite. So now she has a fatal disease that she's been working through this whole time, and the only thing that can cure her is the desert rose flower. The desert rose is this mythical cure, and now everybody is chasing it, or chasing the place that it is the only place it grows. So there is this mythical island that the bad guy, Sophia, she is ruling this place with an iron fist, and it's the only place the desert rose grows. It is supposedly where Kate Kane currently is. It is the location of this mythical cure-all thing. And it is also where Alice, from Alice in the Wonderland gang, where she learned how to be a badass bad guy. So it's like when you have Wakanda in the Marvel comics, and everything kind of like, okay, well, Storm goes there, and you're like, why did Storm go there? Well, because of course she did. You know, like it's just this place where everything happens to happen.
Gotcha.
So now we have Ryan wanting to get there because she needs a cure. Ryan's team wants to get there because they want to rescue Kate. Kate's dad wants to get there because he wants to rescue Kate. Alice wants to get there because she wants to rescue and then murder Kate because she's crazy.
Okay.
Alice's former boyfriend, who does not remember that he's the former boyfriend, and she doesn't really remember him except they have weird flashes of them kissing, wants to get there because he wants to kill Sophia. Random bad guys want to get there because they want the cure. Like, it's just everybody wants to get there now. So I'm like, can we get there tomorrow and stop dealing with this? Seriously. So I'm hoping that the next episode, everybody just magically gets there. They duke it out. We can get to a new storyline. Woohoo! That's my hope for Batwoman. I don't think so. I think it will be the last episode of the series. Oh gosh. But anyway, I wanna stop dealing with the fact that where's Kate Kane? What happened to Kate Kane? The actress who played her chose not to return, and they chose not to recast her. They cast another character as Batwoman. So let's leave her alone and move on with the new character. Give me villains, give me rogues, give me crime fighting. Yeah. This weird mystery whodunit magical mystical island, I could do without.
It sounds very Purgatory Island from Arrow.
Yeah.
And just
and
like,
Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah, let's all go to Lian Yu like every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it's like at first with Arrow, there was a lot that they could do with that, but eventually they caught up with the time that he no longer had any more memories that we hadn't explored from Lian Yu. Yeah. And then they were like, let's go to Lian Yu. And you're like, no, can we stop?
Yeah, seriously. Like, I get that, like, he was stuck on this island for 5 years.
Uh-huh.
You know, and then magically leaving every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Funny how that happens, that he became fluent in Russian and became a Russian mobster. Like, okay. Right? Sure he did.
Well, it's just like, I feel like every time they were like, all right, we need something weird to explain this. All right, well, it happened while he was on Lian Yu. So we'll just take him off and, you know, he got picked up by this or he got picked up by that. Stop. Continuity.
Yeah. Like, if he was half as skilled as he is once he gets back home, then maybe he could have escaped from all of these Russian people when they picked him up off the island.
Yeah.
I digress. The last CW show is going to be Superman and Lois. So this is episode 2, and we are right still in the same place that we were. They have moved to Smallville in order to spend more time together and become a better family and be closer. And so the first thing that they do is send one son to school while Superman goes to train the other son in the Fortress of Solitude. And I'm like, you are still effing up. If you're going to be such a great dad, treat the twins the same. Like, they get to the Fortress of Solitude, and the first thing he does is, like, learn about your Kryptonian heritage. And I'm like, doesn't the other twin get this tutorial as well?
It's not like one's Kryptonian and the other one's just human.
Exactly. Like, that's not how this works. And so they, there's one throwaway line where Jordan, the twin who has manifested powers, calls Jor-El his holograms. Oh, and I love that so much. It was such a Gen Z kind of thing to say, but I loved it. It was just a moment, and I still laughed really hard. But he's tested. Like, his abilities are tested. And Jor-El says that he's never going to become like Clark. That his powers are not controllable or continuous enough. He has manifested powers in these ways, but he can't rely on that. So at the same time that Jordan has always felt like a piece of junk human because of his emotions and his anxiety, and he's never felt normal. Now he's not even normal for a Kryptonian. So he feels just like absolute trash. And we get this great moment at the end where the two brothers are like, we're going to figure this out together. One has powers, one doesn't. But together, like, they balance each other really nicely. And that feels really like I look forward to seeing more of this relationship than actually Superman and Lois, the titular characters. You know?
Interesting.
Yeah. Everybody in this series has their own struggles that they're being presented with right now, and they're overcoming it. Superman has this bad guy whose name is Captain Luthor, and he is attacking him and beating him. He's in charge, like, he's the one causing all the problems that he's dealing with as Superman. Lois is writing an article against a rich, powerful guy that is trying to silence her. Jordan is the twin that has manifest powers, and he's got to learn how to control that, whether he can control that. He's trying to learn really who he is. And Jonathan is the twin who has not manifested powers, and he's dealing with small town teenager life. He was like a star quarterback at his school back in Metropolis, and he's not fitting in here. And so everybody has these struggles, and it's going to be how they work together to overcome them that I think is going to be the strength of this TV show. And I'm looking forward to that. But my completely not informed opinions, I think what's going to happen is that Jordan and Jonathan are both going to manifest powers, but they're not going to manifest all of Superman's powers.
That makes sense.
I think Jordan is going to get the hearing and the heat vision and maybe some durability, things like that. And that Jonathan will get his speed and his strength and flight. I think that them together would have the powers of Superman, because it seems like it's going to be very much like the twins work together to be accepting and loving with each other and help each other grow. I think that it will probably be like further on in the series that they'll do like some kind of superhero reveal where Jonathan gets powers too.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
They've done various iterations where Superman has gotten powers later in life. Smallville comes to mind. And, you know, unfortunately, the Superman-Lois relationship has only really been portrayed accurately once, and that was in Smallville. They kind of came close with the Henry Cavill and Amy Adams version, but even that towards the end, like, it was good in Man of Steel, and it was good through Batman v Superman. After that, it gets a little wonky.
I do remember liking Lois and Clark back in the 90s.
Yeah, that was good. And then next week on Thursday is the Snyder Cut, so hopefully it will be a much better relationship in that movie.
But when Lois is portrayed as a damsel in distress, she is not a damsel in distress. She is tougher than Superman because of her intelligence and her tenacity and her ability to snoop out and find a story. She's a better writer than him for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like, even though the movie kind of sucked, I think the best film representation of Lois Lane was in Superman Returns.
Yeah.
I mean, as that film had a whole host of other issues.
Yeah.
But it was, in that aspect, a good portrayal. And actually, even the Brandon Routh Superman was not that bad. I think it was one of the first ones I remember going to see in theaters as a kid, way back in the day, after the early '90s Batman TV or movie.
I loved the early 90s Batmans. I mean, that's my childhood right there.
Some interesting times.
Yeah. There is one thing that I also liked from this episode. Jonathan Kent is named after Jonathan Kent, Clark's adoptive father. And that is pretty much canon in the comics. Whenever Superman and Lois have a son, he's usually named Jonathan, which is, wonderful and fine. But we have this twin who popped up out of nowhere after Crisis occurred, and his name is Jordan. And I never really had seen a Jordan Kent before, but he mentions in the Fortress of Solitude that he's named after Jor-El. And I thought that was really sweet. That was a fun little tie-in where I think they really created this character for the show. I don't remember having ever seen a Jordan Kent. And that's a good way to make it feel authentic. Yeah. Of course, if they had twins, they would name them after both of Clark's fathers.
That makes sense. Also, I would hope that I'm glad they stayed away from the let's have another Martha. Because oh boy, no.
Yeah, that is a comic book trope that is really overdone. Is that you have a wise maternal figure that happens to just still be around all the time. Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I love Martha Kent in the comics and in the DCEU hasn't been bad.
Yeah.
But I can't deal with another Martha.
Yeah, I'm fine with this being a different sort of thing. Like Martha Kent had all the answers by this point, and this is about Lois and Superman. I was going to say Lois and Clark, and then that felt weird. Lois and Clark figuring it out and trying to parent teenagers, and their teenagers are getting powers. And if Martha had been around, she was there while Clark was discovering his powers. She would have been able to help them too much.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so this is them struggling to find a way.
Yep.
I like this. There is one last scene at the very end that kind of explains where Captain Luthor is coming from. Okay. And you hear Luthor in regards to Superman, and you immediately think Lex. He has not been called Lex Luthor. He has only been referred to as Captain Luthor. Okay. So you don't know for sure, like, what time frame we're looking at. Is this a Lex? Is this not? We don't know yet who he is. But you see a flash from what he remembers. And I think that he was from another Earth. That Crisis on Infinite Earths dragged him to this Earth. Because the one that he was in, he was fighting with Lois Lane's father as like an army that was fighting against Superman. And Superman was an evil Superman killing all of them. And so now we understand his motivation. He thinks that, Superman, where he comes from, is evil. So he's trying to protect people. And I think that really gets into some of the motivations of Lex Luthor that are like the more honorable ones. Because Lex is usually just a villain. He wants to kill Superman. And especially the Arrowverse version of Lex Luthor, that was one of the things he did in Crisis, is he went through all these different worlds trying to kill all the Supermans. Yep. Which, John Cryer did an amazing job with that Lex Luthor. That was, again, great casting. But this version, we don't know if it's going to be Lex, if it's going to be another Luthor, if it came from the future, from the past, just from another world. But it sets up a great plan because we haven't really spent a whole lot of time exploring the ramifications of Crisis. There are some people that have popped up and you don't know where they've come from. Some people have different versions than what they were expecting. This is really going to explore that in more detail.
Yeah, that's good. We need stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting because going forward, I do need to actually sit down and watch those. I have them recorded.
Yeah.
I may just wait until this season is done and just binge them all.
Or you could just keep talking to me and I'll tell you everything about them.
I mean, honestly, I'm kind of on the fence. I already have so much that I'm like trying to keep track of, and like, ugh, so much stuff.
It's really, it gets overwhelming if you aren't watching them each week because there's just so much.
Yeah.
And especially like with the CW shows, they do reference each other, and the other characters do cameos so easily. Like, not now, obviously, because of COVID, nobody wants to like cross-contaminate sets.
Yeah.
But there has typically been a lot of crossovers where they talk about the characters from the other shows, and somebody from Supergirl will go over to have coffee with Flash, and like they understand that they are in the same universe and that they know each other. So it's very easy to get behind on those.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Sorry, I was peeking at IMDb and found some fascinating things getting into WandaVision. So we know with the twins that they are bringing in the rest of the Young Avengers.
Yes. So we're talking WandaVision now, and Tommy and Billy are Speed and Wiccan.
Big spoiler alert.
They are some of the Young Avengers.
Yes.
My favorite is Hulkling. Looking forward to Hulkling.
See, I am partial to Squirrel Girl.
I do love Squirrel Girl.
Yeah, Squirrel Girl. Like,
that's just like one of the best comic book jokes, that her power is talking to squirrels. I'm just like,
exactly.
It's so silly, but she's also super powerful.
I just generally, I do like Kate Bishop. There's a couple of iterations of the kind of team. The current run within the comics is Kate Bishop, Hawkeye, Emperor Dorkin, Miss America, Patriot, Speed, Stinger, and Wiccan. Now, of course, Speed and Wiccan are Tommy and Billy. That are, in the House of M, they were reincarnated into Speed and Wiccan. So, with the tease that we got at the end of the episode with the end credit sequence, there's one of two ways they could do it. They could either do the reincarnation, or they could be pulling them in from another multiverse. But as I was looking, I looked at this the other day, like literally yesterday, and this was not on here. So because both Spider-Man 3 and Doctor Strange 2 are concurrently filming at the same time right now, as of yet, Scarlet Witch is only slated to appear in Doctor Strange 2, which means she will probably be the main big bad of Doctor Strange 2, which I'm totally fine with, because my guess is in Act 3 is when the multiverse gets ripped open, and then we're going to get all of the Spider-Man cameos and just make my geeky heart go crazy.
I can't even wait. I don't even care if all three of them add up to being less than a second. I don't care. Just, I want them so much.
Right? But here's the interesting thing, okay? In Doctor Strange 2, they're going to have America Chavez. So we're going to start seeing the members of the Young Avengers pop up here.
Who's America Chavez playing?
Oh, I don't recognize the actress. Oh, good lord. I'm gonna butcher this badly.
Xochitl Gomez?
Yeah.
Oh! Okay, she was in the really cute Babysitter's Club movie.
Okay, I heard about it, but I haven't.
Yeah, the Netflix Babysitter's Club. I've been a dork, and through COVID, I've been reading all the Babysitter's Club books. Let's not talk about how Kristi's life has gone downhill in the last year.
Do you see me complaining?
Literally, my library list is just Babysitter's Club, Babysitter's Club, Babysitter's Club.
Dude, I'm binge reading right now the All Souls trilogy, which is a discovery of witches, okay? It's like Twilight for grown-ups.
Well,
it's a fantastic series. It's on like AMC and
nice.
Sundance in the US. It's fantastic, but I digress.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
now that I can think of who this actress is, she's quite adorable as this character in the Babysitter's Club TV series, and I think she would do in a great America Chavez.
Nice. So yeah, so there is kind of the main ones I think they'll probably bring in. So we already know they're bringing in Kate Bishop because Hawkeye is filming.
Yep. And also fun casting there too. I love that actress too.
You know, the irony of it is, I think they did it on purpose, because when they did Into the Spider-Verse, they purposely built the both Spider-Gwen and Miles Morales characters on the actors that voiced them.
Yeah.
So they could easily bring them into the MCU.
Yeah.
And so they kind of just went, yeah, no, you have to recast Spider-Gwen now because we have Haley Steinfeld for Kate Bishop, which honestly I think is better casting, but I digress. So, they'll probably bring in Iron Lad, which is fun. He probably is too old, but I would love them to do Hartley as this character.
I could see that.
I don't think they will, but it would be fun.
But he's not super, like, he's not super old. He's like 15 or 16 by now, probably.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to kind of see, like, how they tweak this.
Yeah, even like older teenagers or young adults. So like early to mid 20s, most of the MCU like real canon characters, the actual Avengers, most of those characters and actors are in like late 30s to early 50s. Yeah. So really anybody a whole generation beneath that could fit under Young Avengers and feel very authentic to that.
Yeah. So we've got Patriot, who we already mentioned, Hulkling, who's fun, and then of course Cassie Lang, who we already know that they aged up due to the snap. So she'll be in there, which will be interesting. Let's see. And that's it off the top of my head. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to kind of see which combination of that they do. Forever there was this rumor going around that Anna Kendrick wanted to play Squirrel Girl.
Yeah. Well, and there was a lot of like fan art making her into it.
Please do. Like just listen to us and do the fan casting. Do that. Do John Krasinski and Emily Blunt for Fantastic Four, and just make me happy.
That seriously. There are some things where it just feels so perfect that you can't believe it's not already a thing. Yeah. You know? It just it has to be. Like somebody has to be making this in secret and we just don't know about it yet.
Oh, I'm sure. So getting into the episode, we pick up right where episode 8 left off with the Scarlet Witch, and I yelled at my TV. I was like, no! And we get Scarlet Wanda in Mama Bear mode, which I adore. Like, I just love this entire episode was just them being parents, and it made me happy.
It was good.
Because I'm like, I know that this is like coming from the reality of you are actually parents, and it just makes it feel so much real. And I love it. I love it so much. So we get this great little moment where she saves the kid. She sends them to their room, which I love. I was just like, that's such a mom thing.
Yeah.
And then we get let's see. Nope, wrong pick. That pick. We get the White Vision, which I have a pic on the screen. From a later shot, but where he tries to come and kill Scarlet Witch, which I understand. It makes me happy that they did this and that they brought this in, because there is a pretty famous run where Vision makes himself like a whole family of like mini Visions. And
Yeah,
they all
because
turn
that's
into,
not
like,
creepy at all when your wife looks exactly like you.
uh, not gonna go there. And we get a bunch of killer Vision family, so that's fun. I like that they brought that in a little bit. I will say they did hardcore troll us in this episode. Like every fan theory that everyone was like, yes, this works. Like every little detail.
Yeah.
Nope. And I blame Kevin Feige for this, because at the winter television presentation that he has to make now because of Disney Plus, he said that you can not watch the shows and know what happens in the movies. And I'm like, okay, so this means nothing major will ever happen in the shows, ever. That makes me mad. But I digress. So we get this, this wonderful sets of fights between both Agnes and Wanda, and Vision, which are hilarious, and they culminate in kind of this town square center with the whole family. And I love this like Incredibles pose that they do.
Superhero
so
family
cute.
pose, perfect.
It's so cute. I'm just like, like the poor kid who plays Billy, I think it is. Yeah. Like his hand acting is not quite there when it comes to his magic. So, that's adorable, but hey, he's a kid. And then we get like the real Incredibles moment, which is kind of the bubble of Scarlet Witch. And there's this great shot that I have of the overhead look of that. It was like for 2 seconds, and I loved it. It was so perfect.
Yeah.
So we get into the really big fight scenes, and we get a bunch of different reveals, and we get the Book of the Dead, not the Book of the Dead, but the Book of the Damned. I forget what it's called.
Necronomicon?
No, not that one.
Darkhold.
Thank you. So we get that, and Wanda will be reclaiming that a little bit later. And we get this really great moment where she's like, boys, take care of the military. Mommy will be right back. And it was so first class, or not first class, Days of Futures Past. When they broke Magneto out of the Pentagon. And I was just like,
referencing Evan Peters as Quicksilver, that he runs around and steals the hat from the soldier.
So great. It was so good. And then of course we get Monica in her new photon powers, taking the bullets as Hayward is trying to shoot the kids.
Yeah, protecting the kids.
Douche. Anyways. So that was
There
fun.
was also a really, like, my favorite line was when Vision said, we know we haven't trained you for this, and then Wanda says, but you were born for it.
I love it so much.
Seriously, like, just the perfect iteration of that family. That none of them knew how to control their powers or anything. Wanda and Vision were both kind of like created and then thrown directly into battle themselves. And they figured it out and spent their time protecting people.
Yeah. They are literally the live action version of The Incredibles.
Yeah.
Honest to God. Like, completely, wrong sets of kids, but absolutely. And I love it so much. Like, I want a family movie of just them.
Yeah.
Going off and doing something.
I would just watch it like Truman Show. Just let me watch their lives for a while. It's fine. I would still do that.
Oh, dude, same. So yeah, and then we get into the big kind of Agatha Scarlet Witch battle where they're throwing magic all over the place.
Oh, I love this. And Wanda is like missing her sometimes because she's just so angry and she's trying to just chuck magic in every direction. Her
Except she
hands are
wasn't.
decaying. Her face is decaying.
Yeah, it was so well done. And then come to find out, she wasn't missing. She was throwing up runes everywhere.
And seriously, this was the best callback to the comics that they've made yet.
Yes.
In the comics, Agatha is her teacher. She teaches her how to use her magic.
Yep.
In this episode, what's the only thing that Agatha taught Wanda? Didn't you notice the runes? Only a witch who casts the runes can use her magic. Like yes, thank you so much. That was the best sneaky teaching scene that I have ever seen in any movie.
It was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And we get, of course, the first glimpse of the Scarlet Witch costume, complete with headdress, and it is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It is 100% comic book accurate. I was freaking out so much. I was like, oh my god, I cannot believe, like, this is like Captain America level perfect.
Mm-hmm. And it's not cheesy comic book accurate like the Halloween episode was.
Yeah.
Because that was completely real, looked like her in the comics. But it was the silly and cartoony comic. This is exactly who this character would be if she was real and alive today.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And while that fight is going on, we get the Vision on Vision fight in the library, which I love because it's such a Vision fight. Like, they stop actually fighting and they have this discussion about identity metaphysics.
Yeah, they just start having a weird ship of Theseus question. And there's a book that was inspired by J.J. Abrams that has this weird question in it, and the whole entire book is a mind trip where you're reading this book, but you're also reading comments that these characters have left for each other in the margins. And one of the things mentioned in it is the ship of Theseus. And so I'm just thinking about that complete mind trip the entire time that they're having this conversation.
Well, and not only that, but so they get into, what actually is the memories, what is, the actual ship, and it's not the wood, it's the memories and the rot and the wear and tear from the voyages. And we get not the kind of merging that we expected, but a merging of a kind where we get, in a very rapid succession, Vision getting his memories back.
Yep. White Vision getting his memories back.
And I think that was like, I don't even know if it was him getting his memories back as much as it was like him imprinting on him and then going forward and then like having the two kind of merge, and like that's how they're going to keep everything together going forward.
I feel like it was maybe like a memory backup or something.
Yeah.
And a weird mystery voice somewhere in the ether around me wanted me to call White Vision glaucoma. I don't know where that voice comes from. So creepy.
Voice of God. It works.
Voice of something.
Yeah. And, and it's funny. So in as I was doing screenshots for this, I noticed that his Mind Stone is not actually a Mind Stone. It looks and acts like a mini arc reactor. Just another throwback to Jarvis.
Exactly.
And I like that the head design is not exactly the same. So that's lovely.
Yeah, you got to think that when they were putting stuff back together, they couldn't quite put everything back together.
Yeah.
Because,
oh, I'm sure.
Some of those little bits really got ripped out.
Yeah, they did. It was so sad. So yeah, we get back to Agatha and Wanda. So we get Wanda getting all her magic back and going full Scarlet Witch, and I love this costume. And she basically imprisons Agnes as the nosy neighbor, which just makes sense, and I love it. And I'm just like, you are too perfect in this role. It's adorable.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
But at the same time, like as traumatizing as that feels, that she is choosing to imprison this other person, she's also being as merciful as she knows how to be.
Yeah.
Because she's not killing this
cruel.
person.
Yeah, she calls her cruel, which I was like, I get
Yeah.
that, and I get that she thinks she knows what's coming, and that makes sense.
Yeah, it feels like we are transitioning. Wanda throughout the MCU movies was a victim, and then she was a villain, and then she was a hero.
Yeah.
And now she's becoming in a new place that I think would probably be classified best as anti-hero.
Yeah.
Where she is going to do things for her own good. And sometimes that's going to line up with the good of others, where she doesn't want to hurt anybody, but she also wants what she wants.
Yeah.
And you'll see that later in the end credits, but I think that I don't know that she is going to be the villain of Doctor Strange. I think she's going to be a wrinkle in the movie. That part of her is she's coming into her powers. She is stronger than Strange, but I think ultimately she's probably going to like side with him and help him.
Yeah.
Because she still inherently wants to protect people. She wants to honor that love that she has for Vision, and that's Vision's whole goal is to protect people.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a much more complicated journey in the future where she's not going to be straight villain or straight hero.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. You know, in the comics, she's very much an anti-hero, which is I'm totally cool with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love that. You know, she is probably best described as, you know, chaotic neutral.
Yeah.
And you know, it is as much as I love having watched them grown together. Okay, now we're gonna see them grow apart as individuals for a little bit, so that way when they do come back together, and we do get Tommy and Billy back, you know, we can see them go forward as a family, which I am all for. And you know, there is this kind of poignant moment where Vision says, "Well, it would appear our dream home has been reduced to a fixer-upper, but I know you'll set everything right, just not for us."
It was so sweet, and yeah, I was crying by the end of this episode.
I was crying so much. Like every time I watch this, I was crying, and it was just like having watched him have that realization in episode 7, and then go, okay, and then you see everything that she went through. You know, and I liked that in the last episode, she didn't try and steal his body, even though they spun it that way, you know, and it was just that she is so overcome with her grief. Like the world's most expensive grief, second expensive grief therapy session ever behind Tony's like weird AI thing, from Civil War.
Yeah.
And I love it that they went home as a family, and I love that like they were in their costume till they got to the door, and then they went to normal clothes. And I'm just like, no, I need to see you as a family going forward.
Yeah,
I need this in my life.
I suspect that any reference that we see to Tommy or Billy in the near future is going to be somehow from Wanda's mind. That she's going to hallucinate them, or she's going to think of memories of them.
Yeah.
And I would say that the next time we see those characters themselves, that they're probably going to be teenage versions.
That would be my suspicion.
Because they're cute little 10-year-olds, but 10-year-olds don't have much of a place in comics.
Yeah. You know, it'll be adorable. And I have a theory about that, but we get through this last little bit. So there's some really great dialogue as we kind of get to the end of this episode of we don't see Darcy much this episode, although she is the one that pinned Hayward, and I love that she says have fun in prison. It's adorable. But we get this great moment between Wanda and Vision as she's the as the energy's coming in, and you can see they put the kids to bed so they didn't have to watch them go,
and they're saying goodbye,
and they're saying their goodbyes, and she's like, he asks her, what am I? And she says, you are the piece of the mind stone that lives in me. You're a body of wires, blood, bone, wires and blood and bone that I created. You are my sadness and my hope, but mostly you're my love. And I just bawled.
Yeah.
I was like, ah! So much.
And then Vision said, do you have the words of what Vision said after that? Like, if you've got the transcript still pulled up.
Yeah, I do. He said, I've been a voice with no body. I've been a body but not human, and now a memory made real. Who knows what I'll be next? Which is a very big of a, he will be back.
He will. He is White Vision at the moment, off in who knows where, doing who knows what, probably trying to figure out who he is now and what he wants to be. He has to overcome his prime directive, which was to kill Vision, because now he is Vision.
And I love they end with, we've said goodbye before, so it's the reason that we'll say hello again.
Yeah.
So good.
It was so poignant that all of this experience, Wanda didn't realize she was doing it at first. It truly was chaos magic taking over her.
Yeah.
And so she's not the bad guy. No. And even Agatha isn't the bad guy. There really is no bad guy. I mean, this is just a situation that happened, and she was grieving so much that she didn't realize what she was creating. When she did realize it, she still thought that people were at peace and that she wasn't hurting anyone. And this is her choosing to accept her grief and drop this and let people get back to their real lives and trying to move on with it. So it's just about Wanda's journey at the end of the day, like through the stages of grief, through these TV tropes, and through these different lenses that we get to see different aspects of her and Vision and their life together. And it's really just this journey of self-discovery. And I think that's what they mean by saying you don't have to watch the TV shows in order to understand the movies.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's that the TV shows aren't important or we're not going to learn things, but this is such a dive on one particular character that I think when Doctor Strange comes up, we are still going to know who Scarlet Witch is. She's going to be stronger and probably more focused. But people who have only watched the movies aren't going to be lost.
No, but it will. And I think they kind of are doing it on purpose. If you don't watch this show, which I get, like a lot of people did not understand the show, and I hope people go back and watch the whole thing now that it's over, and kind of understanding, the format, why they did sitcoms, and all of these things, because there's so many great sitcom references. Like every time I watch it, I pick up a new sitcom reference.
Yeah.
So I understand, like, the first couple of episodes turn people off. I get it. I do. It's why, like, I tell people who didn't like it, watch the first 4 together.
Yeah.
If you don't like it after that, fine. But those first 4 together, you have to watch back to back.
Just watching the first 1 or 2, you're not going to understand enough about what's happening.
And I really think they should have released the first 3 together, and they didn't. And I think that turned a lot of people off. But it'll be interesting going forward. So we have 2 end credit sequences this week, which I was so happy about. I did not expect a second one.
But I love the second one. I think that's my favorite moment of the entire.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. But first one first. So we get pretty much picking up right where we left off. We get this wonderful moment of her flying away as Scarlet Witch in the full outfit. We get a couple of cool overhead shots, and then one of her looking back at Westview and really saying goodbye to the dream they had of growing old together.
Right.
Which is just, we've been saying it all along. Elizabeth also needs to be nominated for every damn thing on the planet for this show.
So good.
She's so fantastic. But I digress. So then we get this lovely scene with Monica and Jimmy, and she's like, "Yeah, authority looks good on you." And she gets called into a meeting in the theater, and literally my thought was, I was like, "Wow, that is the nicest theater I've ever seen," and also, "Damn, I miss movie theaters." And I was so jealous because like a friend of mine went to see the new Raya and the Last Dragon in a theater, and I was like, "Oh, I want it so badly," but I digress.
I miss real life.
I hate COVID. Anyways, so we get this great moment of, and I actually don't know the character's name. I don't think they actually mentioned it, and we get this
a government official.
Your mother's.
Yeah.
He heard you were grounded. He would like to meet with you. And she's a Skrull. And I went, holy crap, we set up Secret Invasion and Captain Marvel 2 already. Good Lord. I have to admit, I was not the hugest fan of Captain Marvel, and actually I am going to go back this week and rewatch it and try and put aside my I don't like Brie Larson.
Yeah. I can understand, like, Captain Marvel was never one of my favorite characters, and I think that she's a bit overpowered even in the movies.
Yeah.
That, like, she could not be in Infinity War or Endgame for longer than she was.
Yeah.
I understand why they chucked the movie out in order to make those couple minutes of a character make sense.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know.
The irony
I don't care for a lot of that movie. Like, everything is kind of girl power, and then Jude Law is a really crappy bad guy.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So I liked her in Endgame and Infinity War. I did. I thought the character direction was good, but the irony of that is they shot that first and then shot Captain Marvel. So there was a couple of things wrong with the film. I think for a lot of people, Brie Larson is super aggressive in real life and a little over the top when it comes to a lot of issues that turn off a good section of the country. And a lot of people have a hard time getting past that. For me, my biggest issue, besides the fact I've just never liked anything she's done, was I didn't like how much politics they put into the movie. Like, there was a lot. I don't want politics in my superhero movies. Leave them alone. If you want to do that, go make an art house film. I don't care. But the biggest frustrating thing for me was the really big Easter eggs that meant nothing. So, how Nick Fury got his eyes screwed up. How he came up with the name Avengers. You know, there was all these little moments that are like, okay, finally payoff. And it was like the Han Solo thing.
Yeah.
You know, how he came up with his last name.
And you're like, oh, okay, I guess maybe we needed an answer for that. Yeah. For me, it's not so much anything having to do with Brie Larson as a person or even the context of the story. Because I'm of the mindset that, you know, you use different characters to tell different stories. So if you choose to tell this story in this way, I'm fine with that. For me, it was the acting that she spent so much time, like, stopping, standing, and then kind of squinting at something. And I was just like, is that your superhero pose?
Yeah.
And then by the time she finally...
not good.
Yeah. By the time she finally, like, realizes her own strength and her powers, then she's just like, let's bust through everything. And I prefer when people have to struggle to beat the bad guy, when they have to work together. And to be honest, Captain Marvel, the way she was written, she took down entire ships in one punch, you know? Like, she could have stopped Thanos, but she just didn't get there in time. Or she struggled with it, and then he punched her with the Power Stone. Like, I just feel like she was more overpowered than probably any other character.
Well, she was the MCU's Mary Sue. You know, and when you have a character start at 100, there is no room for character growth.
Yeah.
I would have much preferred them start it from, okay, she has the accident, she gets these powers, and then go from there and her to
She
learning
needs to learn to use them, or
all of that.
Or like maybe when she when she found out that she was being lied to, and her, like, that thing was binding her powers, maybe she has an emotional epiphany that causes her to doubt herself and she becomes weaker, like something. Give me some kind of internal struggle other than she's just massively powered and can punch stuff now.
Yeah, we'll see what they do with the second one.
And even with Endgame, like the way that we left her in the 80s, and Nick Fury at the end of Infinity War calls for her on the pager. So, okay, super cameo, that's fine, that's whatever. But the fact that they just toss her away, being like, well, other planets suffered the snap too, I'm there. You could have spent time there, You could have spent some time with her actually helping people instead of showing up at the last moment and being like the Hail Mary that saves the day.
Yeah, and for me, like, I actually didn't want that. I actually wanted Wanda in her grief to be the one to take down Thanos. And she was right there.
She was so close.
And it made me sad that, like, that wasn't the thing.
Yeah.
And
as we see from WandaVision, she had the power. She could have done it.
And I think she was enraged enough. I think she would have done it.
Yeah.
And it would have been an interesting way of, seeing that, then going into this and been like, oh, okay. Cool.
This brings up an interesting point, though. A lot of the Marvel superheroes tend, like, especially when we get into mutants and we get to the mutants who have Omega level powers, which is like reality altering stuff, like Wanda.
Yeah.
There are a lot of Marvel characters that are massively overpowered in the comics.
Yes.
And the reason of that is because the bad guys are like galactic level bad guys. You have someone like Thanos who can wipe out half the universe in a snap. You have Galactus, Devourer of Worlds. You have Ego, the Living Planet. You have these bad guys that are just so incredibly cosmic in nature that you need superheroes that can go toe to toe.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, okay, well, who are we going to fight? Like, who are all of these galactic level bad guys that are going to come out of the woodworks? I hope that what we do instead is, like WandaVision, having more internal struggles where they're coming to terms with something that is causing them grief or something. Same thing with Doctor Strange. He, in the first movie, just kind of jumped to not knowing magic was real to being the Sorcerer Supreme over the course of a movie. And it was, real fast. I would like to go back and spend some time with him really learning how to master those powers, learning how to be the Sorcerer Supreme. I really like taking these really strong characters and giving them human struggles.
Sorry, I looked at Discord. I shouldn't have looked at Discord.
Is it Paul's Darth Plagueis meme?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, honestly, it was the them sitting watching a sitcom and it was Anakin killing the younglings, and I'm like, that's me. I am Vision.
That's Paul.
But I digress. So yeah, we get that scene, and then I stopped it, and I was like, oh, okay, I've got like 4 minutes left. There's no way that we don't have a second one, so I kind of fast forward. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
this is like that little moment.
I love it. I
just
love it so much.
Relief where you kind of you still had like one little thing that was at the back of your mind, just kind of like, but I need just a tiny bit more, and then you get it.
Yeah. Well, and see, that's the thing. So like we see this lovely kind of shot, and I had a little bit of issue the second and third times that I watched it, because you could tell with the zoom in that they tried to cover too much ground too quickly. and the camera started to shake a little bit, and I
Mm.
was like, "Oh, guys, come on! Like, don't do this to me right now." And once I noticed it, I can't not notice it.
Yeah.
It's the film nerd in me, and I was just like, "Oh boy."
I
But
gotta
we get
say
this-
though, when we were zooming in, I
Mhm.
didn't know who to expect. I was hoping
Yeah.
it was going to be Vision, like Vision
Yeah.
learning to be a real boy kind of thing.
You know, I was pretty sure it was gonna be Wanda.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense, but still.
I wasn't. I was surprised that she went full Wolverine, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. That works. I like it."
Honestly, she spent so much time like in this cute little suburban town and then hurt so many people. It makes sense. She's going to isolate herself while she learns how to control this magic.
Yeah, and I love that she was making tea while she had an astral projection going, and just like, I was like, "Oh, we're gonna go so full Scarlet Witch that it's gonna be like almost Phoenix level. Okay, this is how you do this kind of a story."
Yeah. Oh, it was so perfect. So it was almost like they copied Doctor Strange scene for scene. Like it looked exactly like him using astral projection to study while he slept. Yeah. Like the same jerky movements, same kind of mystic energy around her, and she's studying the Darkhold.
Yeah, which there is in the comics, if you study it for too long, I believe you can go insane. Where is this?
The Book of Sins, the Book of Spells, or the Book of the Damned.
Yeah, and of course it's from Morgana Le Fay, which, you know, why? Well, who else would it be from? Let's see. It has a long history throughout the comics of people that we haven't really been introduced yet to.
Well, it has a bit of history through some of the other shows too. So while you're looking for that, I'll mention that briefly. It was found in Shield, and there's a lot of
Shield.
Yeah, there's a lot of back and forth in Agents of Shield with some of the characters trying to read it, some trying to protect it. It is also found in Marvel's The Runaways, and that was some teenage characters whose parents were all evil, and they literally run away from home and then try to fight their parents. Except weirdly, in the last season, then their parents are all kind of good people again and helping them, but they're still runaways. I don't know. It got weird. But they are trying to stop Morgan Le Fay, played by what's her name? Oh, I'm blanking. Pretty lady, Elizabeth Hurley. Yeah. They're trying to stop Morgan Le Fay from getting the book. So the Darkhold is used very often in the comics for sorcerer characters, evil characters, as a way for them to learn more or gain more power or do some extra dark things. And that is what Wanda is studying.
Gotcha. Okay, so a bunch of things. It contains infinite knowledge. It has a whole bunch of stuff, including a whole big thing on the Scarlet Witch myth, which I found a fantastic picture of her studying with it, which I will send to you later. You can find out how to access the dark dimension, and there's only been a couple of witches who've been able to read the whole thing. Agatha and Wanda being two of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple that of kind of weird, like, ghost people that have tried to read it that couldn't.
In Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the life model Decoy was able to read it because she wasn't alive.
That makes sense.
And she kind of went evil from it too. This book messes with stuff.
Well, and that's the other thing. So it can corrupt the reader's mind and create a dangerous obsession. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how they play with that. For me, I think the big thing that they're going to do is, so as she's reading it, we hear both Tommy and Billy cry out for mom.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple of theories. This could be it. So in the comics, they were soul pieces of Mephisto's soul that were reclaimed, and then she had to go get them and
Mm-hmm.
reincarnate them. The other theory is that they got stuck in the multiverse somewhere, and so she's going to rip open the multiverse to get them. Because she's already shown she is a mama bear when it comes to her kids. So it'll be interesting to see where we go. But yeah, I think a lot of this will kick off at the end of Spider-Man 2 or Spider-Man 3. I keep calling it 2. It's not the second one; it's the third one. And then of course into Doctor Strange 2, which I believe.
Which one airs first?
That's a good question. Hold on.
Phase 4.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange is scheduled to be released March 25th, 2022.
Okay. And then, so, Spider-Man is 2021. I believe that's Christmas 2021, actually.
Interesting. Yeah, because it said only in movie theaters this Christmas.
Yeah.
When they finally release something. Release date December 17th, 2021.
Yeah.
So Spider-Man No Way Home will come out this year.
Yep.
And then 3 months later, Doctor Strange. So.
And the irony is, so they're filming both of them right now.
Mm-hmm.
One, I believe, is in London. The other one is in Georgia. I think
and one thing that they've been doing really well lately is reusing footage, reusing, especially in WandaVision, just using those moments from the movies to flesh out the character instead of relying on completely new footage. It makes it feel like it's all continuous. And so maybe they're recording something for Doctor Strange that they will hint to in Spider-Man.
Well, see, here's the thing. So they do have, if they are in the UK, like I think they are, they do have those virtual sets that they use for The Mandalorian. That is, let's see. Okay, so they are shooting in London currently, and then they're also going to shoot in New York, LA, and Vancouver. Good
nice.
Lord.
Okay.
That's a lot. But my guess is New York and LA are going to be relatively short. Vancouver will probably be bigger.
Yeah.
And then that is going to be out March 25th, 2022. So that'll be interesting.
And a lot of the things that we're talking about with tying WandaVision into Doctor Strange, that is pretty apparent because of the mystical connection, the reference to Sorcerer Supreme, all of that. And what's less apparent is how Spider-Man ties in. But some of the hints that have been dropped, well, for one thing, Doctor Strange is definitely going to be in Spider-Man No Way Home. He is credited, and it's like as cast, not as cameo or featuring or anything of that. And then what some of the kind of spoilers and teasers have been are the other versions of Spider-Man from the Sam Raimi films and from the Amazing films, bringing in those actors to reprise their roles. Some of the villains from those movies, Doc Ock and Electro, and I think even Mysterio is supposed to crop up again, maybe. the fact
so
of that just gives you the feel that it's going to lead into the multiverse. We're going to see different versions of Spider-Man. And I honestly really hope that they even reference Into the Spider-Verse, the animated movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that would be another great way to kind of tease and feature that all of these different MCU properties over the years can all coexist and they can all be together.
So here's the interesting thing. So they started filming this back in November, or Doctor Strange 2 back in November. They were filming this and WandaVision at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had to, so that was in Atlanta. Then they moved to London. That was in end of December. They had to stop until January. They've been filming since then, and then just got back shut down. So they must have just finished in London,
right,
recently. And then the New York and LA ones, I'm sure, are going to take forever as far as finishing up filming. And then, so I know Strange is in Into the Spider-Verse because they've already filmed it.
right.
So they've done, let's see, Into this, yes, I have the right film. Okay. So Spider-Verse is done in, so they filmed in New York. They started in October in Atlanta. Looks like they are close to being done.
Mm-hmm.
As far as they just finished filming or they just finished most of principal photography. The only last little bit is they've got to do some last school filming, which will be in this month. And then they've got to do some in LA and Iceland, of all places. So they will be done filming by the end of March for
nice.
Spider-Man 3. So it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Super pumped.
I'm very much like, Spider-Man is one of my favorite characters. Ever since the cartoon series back in the 90s. Like that was really my first experience with Marvel, was watching X-Men and Spider-Man cartoons. And then when the MCU came out and going back and reading some of the comics, that's been my way in. So Spider-Man feels like an old friend. And the fact that I've seen every movie with all of these different versions, it just makes me very hopeful for those tiny Easter egg cameos that I am expecting.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Even if it's not everything that I want it to be, I'm looking forward to what they do give us.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Let me just pull up the casting. Let's see. So, no, they really are keeping this tight-lipped. As far as who is in it, interesting. They haven't really released a whole lot as far as who all is going to be in it besides the cameo. So I expect Act 3 to be insane amount of cameos. My guess is that Wanda will show up looking for the twins, and in her search for the twins will rip open the multiverse, which will bring in all of the cameos,
which will cause havoc and chaos, and
which will lead into.
And then Doctor Strange has to put the multiverse back together in Multiverse of Madness.
Yes.
That could be a very fun way to do that.
I'm pumped. I'm hoping that movie theaters will be a thing by then, and I can actually go see this in IMAX.
That would be nice.
I'm done with my COVID vaccine at the end of the month, which means I can go back to normal life. I'm so happy. Oh, gosh.
I won't be going back to normal life for a long time.
Yeah, I am sad for you about that.
Yeah. Yay for pre-existing conditions.
I get it. It's literally the reason why I'm getting this is because my parents are on the older side, and every time I go see them, I don't want to endanger them.
Mhm.
So, yeah. Go get your vaccine, everybody, please.
Still wear a mask though.
Please.
Be
Yes.
nice people. Get the vaccine for you. Wear the mask for me. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Or at least until you've had the 2-week asymptomatic period after your second shot. If you've had that, then live your life. But I digress. Anyways, that's gonna do it for us this week, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Do hit us up on Discord. All the Bounty Honeys channels and my YouTube channel and our YouTube channel will be down below in the description.
Yep.
We've got a lot of fun, exciting stuff coming up. We shall be back next week talking all things filming wise of WandaVision, all the DC shows.
Probably a lot about women in comic books because it's International Women's Month. We'll talk about some of our favorite characters.
Yeah.
Spend some time there since we don't have a brand new
episode
Falcon and Winter Soldier yet.
I'm excited.
Couple weeks.
I hope it doesn't disappoint me.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it is the buddy cop film that I am imagining it to be based on.
I want Falcon and Winter Soldier to be buddy cop, and I want Loki to be like a spy thriller. Like that's what I want.
Yeah. I want the Loki of Avengers. Give me that and I'll be happy.
It should be. Because it's immediately following that. He hasn't had any time for a character arc.
Right. But I digress. Anyways, yep. Thank you guys so much for joining. All of our stuff will be down below in the description. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell. Turn on your notifications.
All that fun stuff.
Follow us on all your favorite podcasting sites. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. We're everywhere. Anywhere you get your podcasts, we're on there. I guarantee it. Please
and you have a Geek Girl guarantee.
Yeah, I do. Because I get emails of, hey, you're now on this place. Hey, you're now here. And I'm like, oh, cool. Sweet.
Handy.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining. If you do like us, please do leave a comment down below or leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcasting site. It helps us get out there. Spread the word to all of your friends who are geeks. And we'll see you later.
Bye.
And we're out.
Okay.
Yay! Let me remux this. I'm going to have so much fun taking out Paul's random storing.
Poor Paul.
I get it. It's been a week for him. What?
You okay back there?
No. What is this episode? Where is this episode? Lord.
I do not know, but I'm going to click stop recording.